Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at AgriWise and how AI is changing things up out on the farm.
Yeah, AgriWise is really cool. It's an AI platform helping farmers to make better decisions with all the data they collect.
That's a pretty big deal.
Mhm.
So, want to tell everyone a bit more about it? Like, how does it actually work?
Sure. So AgriWise, it's developed by this company, Smart Farm Tech, right? And it's all about this idea of precision agriculture. Basically, they're using AI to look at tons of information.
Okay.
We're talking like satellite images, weather patterns, sensor data straight from the fields, and turning it all into something farmers can actually use.
So it's like taking all this raw data and making it useful,
Yeah.
instead of farmers just going with their gut.
You got it. Like before, it was kind of like, okay, this is how we've always done it. But now with AgriWise, they can make choices based on, real data, not just intuition.
Interesting. So give us an example of how AgriWise would actually help a farmer.
Okay, well, imagine this. AgriWise is checking out these satellite pictures, right? It can tell how healthy the crops are and can see if a certain area is too dry or maybe needs more fertilizer.
Really?
It can even predict how much the farmer's going to harvest. It's crazy accurate. Stuff like this, it just wasn't possible before AI came along.
That's pretty amazing. You mentioned machine learning earlier. What is that?
Ah, yeah. So machine learning is basically, think of it like teaching a computer to learn from information. No programming really needed. So with AgriWise, all that data, the pictures from the satellite, the weather stuff, sensor readings, it's all fed into these algorithms and they learn from it.
And
Then they can start to see patterns, right? Like the early warning signs of a disease or if the soil's missing something. They're picking up on things a human might miss.
so it's like having this super scout always watching over your crops.
Haha, yeah. That's a great way to put it. It's not just about spotting the problem, though.
It's not.
No. AgriWise also suggests what to do about it. And it's not just like a generic fix-it guide. The recommendations are tailored to each farm and what it needs. Like if it's going to rain soon, it might tell the farmer to hold back on watering.
Wow, that's super smart.
Hmm.
Okay, but how does a farmer actually use AgriWise? Is it some crazy complicated program?
Nope. They've actually made it super user-friendly. They've got this mobile app that farmers can use right there in the field.
Oh, that's handy. So they can be walking around, see something off, and just pull out their phone.
Exactly. They get the analysis right there, and the app will even tell them what they can do about it.
Nice. That must make a huge difference for farmers, being able to make decisions in real time like that.
It really does. It helps them get the most out of their crops, use less water and fertilizer, and, well, make more money in the end, right?
Makes sense. And this isn't just about efficiency, right? I've heard that AgriWise can help with sustainability too.
Absolutely. One of the big things is, it helps farmers use just the right amount of water and fertilizer. That cuts down on waste and, is better for the environment.
Okay, so it's a win-win.
Mm.
Farmers are saving money, getting bigger harvests, A&D being more eco-friendly.
It's a pretty sweet deal. That's why a lot of people are excited about it. Dr. Emily Chen, she's an agronomist at the University of California. She called AgriWise a revolution for small and medium-sized
Like
farms.
revolution. That's a bold statement. What makes her say that?
Well, think about it. In the past, only the big farms with loads of money could afford to use this kind of tech. But AgriWise is making it so anyone can do this kind of data-driven farming, like leveling the playing field.
I see. That's pretty cool. So it's giving smaller farms a fighting chance. That's a powerful idea. But if we zoom out a bit, think bigger picture. How could AgriWise change the whole agriculture industry, not just individual farms?
Oh man, that's where it gets really interesting. Imagine if every farmer was using data like this. You could see a huge jump in how much food we grow, less waste of resources, and a much smaller impact on the environment.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. That's a pretty amazing vision of the future. But before we get too carried away, there's something we need to address. Data privacy. We're talking about a lot of sensitive data here, right? Satellite images, sensor readings, all that stuff. How does AgriWise make sure that's all protected?
Oh yeah, that's super important. Data security and privacy, especially when you're dealing with agricultural data, it's a top priority.
Oh, how do they do it?
Well, they've got a bunch of measures in place: data encryption, secure servers, strict access controls, all that good stuff. And they have a very clear privacy policy. It spells out how they collect, use, and protect the data. Everything's transparent.
That's reassuring. But even with all that, I imagine some farmers might still be a bit hesitant to share all that information.
Right, right. Building that trust is crucial, and Smart Farm Tech gets that. They've been working hard to be open about how they handle data and build strong relationships with farmers. They're really emphasizing that the farmers own their data and they can choose who sees it.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about giving the farmers control. But data privacy aside, aren't there other potential issues?
Hmm.
Like, what about the cost? Could it be too expensive for smaller farms, especially in developing countries where they could really benefit from this technology?
That's a really good point. Making it affordable for everyone is definitely important. And actually, Smart Farm Tech is trying to address that with their pricing. They have different plans, based on what the farmer needs and what they can afford.
That's good to hear. So they're
Yeah.
working to make it accessible. But it's not just about the money, right? Not all farmers are tech wizards. Do they offer any training or support?
They do. They've got all kinds of resources, online tutorials, webinars, even in-person workshops. And they have a dedicated support team that's always available to answer questions.
Wow, it sounds like they're really trying to make this as user-friendly as possible.
They are.
I'm really impressed with what we've learned so far. AgriWise seems like it could be a total game changer for everyone in agriculture, big or small. But with all this talk about data and efficiency, sometimes it's easy to forget about the human side of things. The farmers themselves. How are they handling this big shift towards data-driven farming?
That's a great question. And it brings up something really interesting. A lot of people think AI is going to replace jobs.
Hmm.
But in farming, it's more about helping people do their jobs better.
So instead of robots taking over the farm, it's giving farmers superpowers.
Exactly. Haha. Though I'm sure it's a big adjustment for some farmers, to go from doing things the old way to using all this new technology.
Yeah, I bet there's a learning curve there.
For sure, there's a change in how you got to think about things. But it's amazing how quickly a lot of farmers have picked it up. They really want to learn and are ready to try new things that can help them.
That's really cool to see. So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about how people use it and adapt to it.
You got it. And that ability to adapt is super important because AI is always changing, right? Platforms like AgriWise, they're constantly getting better and doing more. What we see today, it's just the beginning.
Whoa, okay, now I'm even more curious. What's coming next? What kind of cool stuff can we expect to see in the future of AI and farming?
Well, think about it. We can get even more specific with recommendations. Like, imagine an AI system that looks at each individual plant, its genes and everything, and tells you exactly how much water and fertilizer it needs.
Wow, that's crazy. So we're going from managing entire fields to managing each plant.
Yep. And robots are getting better too. Pretty soon we'll have AI robots working right alongside farmers, planting, weeding, harvesting, way faster and more efficient than we can do now.
That sounds wild, like something from a sci-fi movie. Okay, but zooming out again, think bigger picture. Can AI help us solve some of the big problems facing agriculture, like climate change and making sure everyone has enough to eat?
That's where it gets really exciting. AI can help us make crops that can handle climate change, and figure out how to use less water in places where there isn't much. Plus, it can even predict and stop outbreaks of pests and diseases.
So AI could be a key part of making sure we can feed everyone on the planet, even as the population keeps growing, all while protecting the environment.
That's the goal. It's not just about producing more food, it's about doing it the right way, in a way that protects the planet for our kids and grandkids.
That's powerful. But with any powerful technology, we have to think about the downsides too. What about jobs? If robots are doing more of the work, are people going to lose their jobs in agriculture?
That's a real concern, and it's a conversation we need to have. But throughout history, whenever we've had big technological changes, it's usually meant jobs change, not disappear.
So you're saying we'll see different types of jobs, not necessarily fewer jobs?
Exactly. As AI takes over certain tasks, we'll need people to do other things like analyzing all that data, keeping the AI systems running, and of course, developing new technologies. The key is to adapt and make sure people have the right skills for these new jobs.
That makes sense. But beyond the economic stuff, what about the ethics of it all? We talked about data privacy, but could AI make things worse when it comes to inequality in the food system? Could it create a situation where only the people with the latest tech benefit, leaving small farmers and everyday consumers behind?
That's a really important point. It's why we need to be careful and responsible about how we develop and use AI in agriculture. We have to make sure these technologies are accessible to everyone, not just a select few.
So it's not enough to just invent the technology. We have to make sure it's used fairly.
Exactly. We need to be aware of the potential consequences and work to avoid any negative outcomes. The goal is to use AI as a force for good, to create a food system that's fair and sustainable for everyone.
Okay, so we've seen the amazing potential of AI in agriculture, from getting bigger harvests to helping us deal with climate change. But we've also talked about some of the challenges and the need to be responsible.
And that's the main point, right? Technology is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it. It's up to us to shape the future of agriculture. AI can be a powerful partner in that process.
So where do we go from here? What can our listeners do to be a part of this conversation and make sure AI is used for good in agriculture?
That's the big question, isn't it? We can talk about all these amazing things AI can do, but at the end of the day, it's up to all of us to make sure it's used the right way.
So where do we start? How do we, like, as regular people, make sure AI is a force for good in agriculture?
I think the first thing is just knowing about it. Being aware of what AI can do in agriculture, the good and the bad. When we're informed, we can make better choices as consumers.
So you're saying we should be more conscious of where our food comes from and how it's grown.
Yeah, look for labels that tell you if it was farmed sustainably. Support your local farmers, especially the ones who are using this technology responsibly, and be willing to spend a little more for food that's produced ethically and sustainably.
Okay, that makes sense. Those are things we can all do. But what about the bigger picture? How can we, like, influence policy? How do we make sure AI is used for the right reasons in agriculture?
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Have these conversations with people like we're doing now. Share information online and reach out to the people who represent you in government. Let them know what you think and support policies that encourage responsible AI development.
So it's about using our voices and fighting for the kind of future we want.
Exactly. And remember, your choices as a consumer, those matter too.
Huh.
Every time you buy something at the grocery store, you're saying what kind of food system you want to support.
That's a really good point. Our choices have power. But it sounds like it's going to take more than just individual actions. We need governments, scientists, tech companies, and farmers all working together to make sure AI is used ethically and benefits everyone.
Absolutely. This isn't a problem anyone can solve alone. We need everyone on board, sharing ideas and working towards the same goals for the future of agriculture.
So it's about more than just coming up with new technology. It's about finding new ways to work together and share knowledge to make sure AI is a good thing for everyone.
Exactly. We want a future where technology helps us grow food in a way that's good for the planet and fair for everyone.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today. We've seen the incredible potential of AI in agriculture, from increasing yields to dealing with climate change. But we've also acknowledged the challenges, right? And the importance of being responsible with this technology.
It's been a really great conversation, and hopefully our listeners have learned something new and maybe even have some new questions.
I hope so too. We've only scratched the surface here. There's so much more to learn about AI in agriculture.
So next time you eat, take a minute to think about that food. Where did it come from? How did it get to your plate? And how is technology changing that whole journey? Because ultimately, the future of agriculture is in our hands. And with AI, we have a chance to build a food system that's good for everyone and for our planet.
That's a fantastic point. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive into AI in agriculture. We'll be back soon to explore more ways AI is changing the world. Until then, keep those brains buzzing.